Hello everyone. Thank you all so much for continuing to support the mysterious exploration videos on my channel. One question has always lingered in my mind. How can I create the most compelling videos for you to experience? Over time, so many of you have watched and left comments that were so fascinating and at times so chilling that I couldn't help but ask, why aren't these things more widely known? These are not just stories. They are real experiences shared by real people. From terrifying dreams that somehow came true, to first-hand encounters with the unexplained in the real world. And that is why, in today's video, we're going to explore some of the most haunting prophetic dreams ever shared in the comments section of this channel. I hope it brings you a truly strange and unforgettable experience. And if you've had a mysterious encounter of your own, whether in dreams or reality, don't hesitate to share it with us in the comments below. But first, you'll have incredible luck if you like and subscribe before this video ends. When I was a child until I was about 10 years old, I had recurring dreams related to rising water and snakes. This dream haunted me a lot back then. I felt terribly helpless. And it was also the reason why I had a fear of snakes, a fear that made me shiver. I told my parents and friends about this recurring dream. Most of the answers I received were that I was afraid of something, so I often had these dreams. Suddenly, I was surfing YouTube, and coincidentally, this video was recommended to me. I saw many people had dreams quite similar to mine. The difference was that I dreamed of snakes, and a few times I dreamed of a snake as big as a house pillar. Thank you for sharing such a haunting dream from your childhood. Recurring dreams of rising water and snakes may reflect deeply buried emotions or subconscious fears. According to experts, dreams involving snakes are often tied to anxiety or periods of change in one's life. Dreaming of large snakes, as you described, may symbolize intense emotions or major challenges you are currently facing. It's fascinating that this video helped you realize how many others have had similar dreams. I hope you find a sense of comfort and perhaps even deeper self-understanding through these shared experiences. When I was 17, I dreamed I walked into our kitchen and my mom was holding my dad in her arms. Dad was crying, and I asked my mom what was the matter. Mom looked at me and said, "I am dead." I burst into tears and woke up. I got up and told my mom about my dream and burst into tears. Mom held me and said, "Silly boy, it's just a dream." 4 years later, due to a doctor's negligence, Mom got cancer. 5 years later, Mom died on our living room floor. Was it a premonition to prepare me for what would happen? Mom died 1971. It still hurts. Thank you, Phil, for sharing such a profoundly moving story. The dream you had at 17 feels like a warning, an omen from some deep, unspoken corner of the soul. Science may never fully explain why such dreams occur, but what's undeniable is the raw emotion they carry, as if the universe itself whispers to us in advance, preparing us for something no one ever wants to face. Losing a mother is a sorrow that never truly fades with time, and that memory lives on within you, an inseparable part of who you are. May you always carry your mother's love and image with you, like a warm light to guide you through the rest of your life's journey. A year before my dad died in 2011, I dreamed that he called me. And while talking, I asked how he was feeling, and he said, "You know, Jen, I have this pain in my side that goes to my back, and it just won't go away, and a stupid cough. But it's probably because I'm working hard." I told him to get it checked out because it could be cancer. He said, "Yeah, when I get around to it." And then I woke up crying and gasping at 7:30 a.m. I grabbed my phone, called him, and while he was walking out of a casino, I asked if he's been having any pain in his side and back. And he said, "How did you know?" And I almost yelled at him to get to his doctor ASAP because I think it's lung cancer. A couple days later, he was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. Listen to the dreams that are so strong, you must follow up on them. Thank you for sharing your story. Dreams as vivid and powerful as yours often seem to be more than just creations of the imagination. Perhaps they are the mind's way, or maybe something beyond our current understanding, of warning us, of trying to protect us in ways we have yet to fully grasp. Your story is a valuable reminder to us all. Never be too quick to dismiss the dreams that leave our hearts unsettled. This is freaking weird. I live in Japan, and I kid you not, my Japanese wife was just telling her father about this very story. And then this was the next thing that came up on YouTube. I don't know about this, but I have some sort of sixth sense where I get an unusual feeling around certain people, like a dark shadow around them. Scary thing is that if I get this, the person will usually pass away within a week or two of it happening. Doesn't matter if they are strangers or well-known acquaintances. It is something that I cannot explain but scares the crap out of me when it happens. The story you shared honestly gave me chills. What you described, a darkness surrounding someone, sounds like a form of heightened intuition, or perhaps even a kind of extrasensory perception that only the truly sensitive can experience. While it defies explanation, it serves as a chilling reminder that there are deeper layers of reality still hidden from view. And sometimes that uneasy feeling isn't random. It's a signal we're not meant to ignore. My recurring dream over the past several years. I'm standing in a field near the edge of a cliff overlooking the sea. As I stand there, I hear a droning sound, and in the distance, coming towards me, I see flights of bombers, fighters, all sorts of warplanes flying over my head out to sea, to war somewhere. I realized that these weren't the first dreams I'd had of coming war. Not all of the dreams took place on the cliff, but all of them forecast war. It's just that they have increased in frequency over the years. I am afraid that one day I will see the planes fly overhead for real, not just in my dreams. I'm 70 this year and live in the UK. The planes were flying towards the European mainland. Thank you for sharing such a dream, one so heavy with foreboding and haunting imagery. Perhaps at some deeper level of consciousness, you're sensing the tremors of something drawing closer to reality. Or maybe it's your life experience, your intuition, and the memories buried deep within your subconscious, finally speaking out. I wish you continued health, and I sincerely hope that what you saw will remain only dreams, never to become reality. I lived on the East Coast for years. I was 4 miles from the beach. When the tsunami hit Japan, I found it went in 10 miles, wiped everything out. I later had a dream about the coast. Not a tsunami, but increasingly high water. It just kept coming. In my dream, I fell asleep on my sofa. When I woke, in the dream, I went to put my foot on the floor. The water was up to my knee. I heard a rattle of my front door. When I looked up, it was a person in a hazmat suit with a breathing apparatus. I punched him, and he ran away. By the time I made it to my front porch, the water was waist high. Not a tsunami, but a very slow creeping up of water. When I looked out from my submerged porch, the coast and dry land was very far away. It woke me up. I started to think, what could possibly wipe out the East Coast? There's a volcano in the Canary Islands on La Palma Island. If it should erupt and the flank side goes into the water, huge tsunami. I moved back to the Midwest. There's something that could happen everywhere. Now it's tornadoes. That dream wasn't just a nightmare. It felt like a warning from the subconscious, a message about the fragility of places we once thought were safe, and the helplessness we face in the shadow of nature's power. Your decision to move further inland speaks volumes. Sometimes listening to our dreams and intuition is not something to take lightly. Thank you for sharing such a thought-provoking experience. I'm grateful and inspired and even a bit fearful, but mostly the first thing I wanted to say is thank you for sharing this. I'm a 50-year-old woman who was born in 1974 in Los Angeles. I went through huge amounts of trauma as a very small child around the Hollywood area. Onward into my life, I would experience continuous trauma karma, the kind that creates complex PTSD, not just regular PTSD. I've also been blessed with being able to sing very well. Many people throughout the course of my life have commented that there is a soulful melancholy in my voice that is not necessarily typical. At some point early on in my life, I cannot pinpoint when it started, but I know that I was fairly young. I started having epic tsunami dreams. Sometimes the dreams would involve cosmic, catastrophic events that destroyed the world. Sometimes I dream about the earth splitting open, but mostly I dreamed about one thing: huge tsunamis. I do not know how or why some people come across prophetic abilities. I do not know if it is generated by God, our own brains and psychology, or something otherworldly, but it exists. The most prevalent and terrifying reoccurring dreams I've had are all about giant tsunamis. Typically, I hear the rumbling or see the wave before anyone else, and I run around trying to desperately warn people as loud as I can that something destructive is coming, and that it is larger than life. Specifically, the wave. Eventually, people start running with me, and we all run desperately in the opposite direction. However, there is no trajectory that is fast enough on human feet that can outrun a wave like that, and suddenly we are all engulfed. There are varying details regarding the end of these dreams, but the meat of the dream is always the same. Giant tsunami coming, me running around trying to warn everyone around me that it's coming and will be here very fast, and a majority of people running, all of us together, and then we are engulfed. I wake up. I've always been fascinated by and terrified by these reoccurring dreams. However, they stopped about 10 or so years ago. I have not had one tsunami dream since, which is very, very strange because they have plagued me all my life. I did have my son, my only son, 10 years ago. Maybe that has something to do with it. But what feels more real is that I had been dreaming about a reality to come, and that we might be on a precipice of that reality, which is why the dreams have stopped. It is a daunting thought and a scary one, but I cannot help but admit that that explanation feels like the right one. Take all of this with a grain of salt, or simply take it however you will. But this is a real story from a real person, for whatever it's worth. I also want to mention, because I think it's significant, I lived in Washington State for several years, and the San Juan de Fuca Plate subduction zone is firmly lodged underneath the Pacific landmass plate, and it is building pressure. Read about what happens when, not if, it erupts. Thank you for sharing such an honest and weighty story. Every word you wrote carries not only pain, but also the depth of lived experience, of intuition, and of a soul that has endured much, yet continues to feel, to warn, and to offer something meaningful. You are someone truly special, and the things you sense, the dreams you have, they matter. Whether we place our faith in intuition, the subconscious, God, or simply coincidence, stories like yours remain a powerful reminder. There is still so much in this world that we cannot explain. I had a dream in February this year, East Coast, Maine. I was at my grandmother's house in Brunswick, Maine. A gusher of salt water from the ocean not far from Cook's Corner where she lived burst out of the ground from a big hole that just opened up with a roar. All of my grandmother's backyard, 75 or so feet wide and 25 feet up, then spilled over, flooding the area quickly, in no time. My grandmother's house was afloat with me in it. Going down what looked like a wide river, a 6-person rowboat, empty of people, came toward me, one oar on board, laying in the bottom flat as it passed me. And I leaped and made it into the boat without tipping it at the back end and rolled forward, flattening it. At its center on the rough waters, got on my knees, paddle in hand, and cut toward the closest shore to my left. Looked back to see my grandmother's house submerge, paddle, and hope the slosh don't fill the boat. Made it to the land, a small lagoon-like area that I plowed up onto dry land and moved quickly to the front and climbed out and up a steep hill. At the top, a guy ran up to me and said it swamped my grandmother's house in Brunswick, Maine. Then he said my grandmother's name. I was on Penobscot River in Bangor, Maine, and he was my cousin who I hadn't seen in years. I woke up amazed and freaked to have seen all that. My grandmother's house was torn down more than 20 years ago. Maybe it was just a dream, but the vividness, the clarity of its narrative makes it hard not to ask, is the mind trying to tell us something? Thank you for sharing such a remarkable experience. December 21st, 2021. I was sitting in my library listening to random videos when suddenly I was yanked on my chair thousands of miles south until I was floating on a clear dosk above water looking at Antarctica. I could see a research vessel to the right of me about a mile or so away. Then I heard a deep rumbling that grew in intensity until the water all around was violently shifting. Saw the people on the ship hocking onto the sides as a snapping sound started behind them. I watched as a crack formed on the glacier and grew fast, moving right and left and spiderwebbing as the quake kept going. Then, my clear disc rose up into the air 100 feet as the glacier fell in every direction, a huge sucking sound as air was dragged down with the chunks of ice, and the research vessel was dragged to the depths with the ice flow. A massive wave started growing and spreading out in both directions and pushing away from Antarctica, going 100 miles per hour. One wave, then another and another, growing until it covered me, and I could see to the bottom of the ocean as every man-made object left behind was swept up and dragged toward every single coastline with terrifying force, hitting South Africa first, then elsewhere. Entire islands and continent were buried underwater. Even people who got to high land was swept away. My husband found me sobbing and struggling to breathe as I told him everything I saw. Been watching Antarctica ever since. Thank you for sharing such a powerful and haunting experience. What you described wasn't just a dream. It felt like a detailed vision, as if you had truly witnessed a global catastrophe unfolding in Antarctica. Perhaps it's time I start keeping an eye on Antarctica as well. Watching this, I really feel something is going to happen. I had a vision back in the spring of 2024. I was in a meditative state. I suddenly saw mountains crumbling, buildings falling, ocean liners sinking, and rivers flowing onto the land. At the end of the vision in my third eye, I saw a beautiful blue shimmering light. The blue was unlike any color you could find on Earth, and in the middle of the blue light, a bright white flash occurred. And then I came out of the meditation. I did have the vision again a few months later. I told my husband I know this is going to happen, when I do not know. I know it will happen as I dreamed for years about September 11th, but had no idea what it meant at the time. The same dream began in the early 80s and continued off and on. I always saw planes flying into tall buildings in a large city, and one always crashing into the ground on the other side of a grassy hill. As I said, this went on for years, off and on. I could not understand why I was dreaming this, and it was always the same way. Then when September 11th happened, I never dreamed it again. This is why I am convinced there will be a catastrophic event. Watching this story about the prophecy of 2025 makes me feel that it's connected with my vision. Thank you for allowing me to share. Visions that arise in deep meditative states, especially when they recur and leave such a vivid impression as you described, cannot be dismissed as mere coincidence. The story of the recurring 9/11 dream, playing out over years until the real event happened, makes it impossible for me not to take your words seriously today. Some among us seem to be connected to something beyond time itself, and you may very well be one of them. My dreams come true. A man would come to me and I never saw his face, but he wore a wide-rimmed hat. Reminded me of old Dick Tracy guy. He would hand me a newspaper and say, "Read this." And there in the headlines was what was going to happen. He did this for several dreams that came true. In the 1980s, I saw Korean Airlines 007 get shot out of the sky. I dreamt that for weeks on end, then it happened. I saw the Kobe, Japan earthquake before it happened. I saw Hurricane Katrina before it happened, dreaming about it for a month before it hit. I learned in my 60 years that if I remember a dream, it will 100% come true. I also can feel when something bad is going to happen. My husband did not believe in psychics, but used to say I was scary as hell because I got so much right. I think everyone has this ability, just some of us see it easier than others. The fact that you foresaw major events like Korean Air Flight 007, the Kobe earthquake, and Hurricane Katrina, all following recurring dreams, is not something to take lightly. Perhaps, as you said, this ability exists within all of us. It's just that some are able to sense it, while others have never truly listened that deeply. I moved to southern New Mexico in 2020, and ever since early 2023, I've had a recurring dream of a massive flash flood or tsunami engulfing the town I live in. In each dream, the wall of water comes from the east, which, if you look at a map of the United States, would be nearly impossible without some major geological restructuring of the entire North American continent. Plus, we have a large mountain range to the east of our town, so the water would have to make it over that and still have enough volume to create a wall of water 15 to 20 feet high. Still, I've had the dream 3 different times, and each time the wave hits during the middle of the day, under a clear, cloudless sky, and takes everyone in the path of destruction completely by surprise. I'm really hoping that the wall of water is just some mental symbolism of work-related stress or something like that, and not a prediction of a future catastrophe. Thank you for sharing such a vivid and thought-provoking experience. Dreams involving water, especially when the presence of water defies geographical reality, often carry multiple layers of meaning. It could symbolize repressed emotions, pressure building beyond normal limits, or perhaps an early perception of a major shift that the conscious mind has yet to comprehend. Hopefully, as you mentioned, it's simply a visual manifestation of work-related stress. Okay, my story is my whole life. I have been clairvoyant, but I didn't know what it was at all. I would be the kid screaming for mom in the middle of the night because of things I had seen or heard. I still don't understand it, but have accepted it now that I'm an old lady. I am touched and hear words and have dreams. I can also read people in a heartbeat and see their future and where they are sick in the body. A while back, I had a dream of a giant storm that came across the USA from east to west. Now that doesn't happen. Storms only go west to east. All I know is it was a gigantic storm with massive flooding, which in 2025 isn't that far off. But I saw this in a dream in 2023 or 2024. I'm not influenced by TV or movies because I haven't watched TV or movies in 7 years. Go figure. Whether it comes as a dream, a passing intuition, or a strange vision in stillness, there's one thing that all these stories have in common: a sense that something is coming. Maybe it's a warning, maybe it's coincidence. But whether you believe in the spiritual, in science, or simply in human emotion, these experiences stand as proof that within each of us, there is a channel connected to something deeper, farther, and perhaps more real. If today's stories made you reflect or brought back a dream of your own, feel free to share it in the comments below. And if you'd like to continue exploring life's mysteries with us, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. We'll see you in the next video.